It's the unknown mechanic back again, and today we are working on an Echo SRM 2620 professional line trimmer. And this channel is for the shop owner who doesn't have technicians that are up to par, and they just fumble and bumble around for hours or even days trying to repair a machine that should take less than an hour. It's also for the mechanic who wants to raise their level of proficiency and be able to proceed through a job without encountering difficulties and slowing them down. And also the homeowner do-it-yourselfer who may want to tackle this job on your own, or at least see the proper tools necessary to do it without damaging anything and doing it correctly. So this machine belongs to Snart Gasser Blast, and it says check gear head, shaft, and clutch. Head doesn't turn. So I've already checked this, and the head and the gear head and the shaft turn very freely all the way up to the engine. And so I've disassembled it just to keep the video short, because my videos are often too long. And so I've skipped a lot of the nut and bolt teardown. And what I found is the clutch bearings in this fan housing assembly are almost 100% frozen. You've really got to force this to get it to turn. It wants to lock up. So there are two ball bearings inside of here, held in by snap rings and press fit. And this is a professional line trimmer. This is a magnesium aluminum alloy fan housing. This plastic cover is just for decoration. The real business of the operation is heavy duty. Two ball bearings, metal, rebuildable, bearings replaceable, drum replaceable, and so on. And so in looking at this, I think I know what accelerated the failure. If you look at all of the clutch dust covering this side of the engine, cooling fins, coil, flywheel, clutch, it looks like the clutch has been under a tremendous amount of load, and it's just constantly slipping. And I see this a lot. The customer has removed the deflector. There is no deflector on here with a limiter blade limiting the length of the trimmer line. So the trimmer line can extend. If you tap the head, the line will advance, and if you tap the head again, the line will advance more, and you tap the head again, the line will advance even more. And then pretty soon you've got a helicopter out here, and there is no blade on the deflector to cut the excess line off and limit the length of the line. If you have too long of a trimmer line coming out of these tap advance heads, and also too heavy a gauge, 105, 130, that puts a greater and greater load on the engine and the clutch. And at a certain point, the clutch will just start slipping. And when the clutch slips, heat is generated, and you get ball bearing failure, you get ignition coil failure from cooking the coil, lots of problems. And these customers, they just want to take the deflector off on day one and put them and extend the line out like a helicopter and mow fields with it. And when they come back and the clutch is burned up and the coil's baked and the bearings are burned out and they want warranty, first thing I tell them is you took the deflector off, you voided the warranty. You want to take the deflector off, you're going to buy the bearings, you're going to buy the clutches, you're going to buy the coils, you're going to buy the shafts, the gear heads, and so on. You're going to pay for it. And that's the price of, taking the deflector off. And, there are some commercial line trimmers that are specifically designed to take a heavy load. Red Max is an example. They have oversized clutches. They have a very, very high visibility deflector that's very small. High visibility is the proper term. Some people call it a bikini deflector. And so you can see what you're cutting. And the length of a Red Max deflector is typically 15, 16 inches, whereas other brands are 14 or 15. And so the Red Max trimmer is a good example of a commercial trimmer that's sort of designed to take that abuse. Even if you remove their deflector, they still have an oversized clutch, and clutch probably won't slip. You'll just run out of engine power. So anyway, proceeding on with the repair, I have already looked up some of the parts that I want to use, and unfortunately I don't have this assembly. Our computer showed that we did have one in inventory, but it was an error. We don't have this in stock, and I don't want to hold the job up waiting for parts when I don't have to. This assembly is not that expensive. It's like $30. But what I do have in stock is a pair of clutch bearings. And these are special bearings. These are the proper ones. They're sealed on one side and they're open on the other side. So they're going to go face to face when I install them. And they're probably also high temperature bearings. Shindaiwa and Echo, in certain applications, they use what's called a high temperature bearing. So it's important to use the right bearing, when you're repairing these. You just can't slap any ball bearing in there. So obviously it's a lot more difficult to remove and replace the bearings rather than just replace the assembly. And I'm just doing it just to get the job to turn around faster, to return it to the customer operating. So it's going to be more difficult. And what's in here, buried down deep in there, is a small external snap ring. And Echo does make an extra long pair of snap ring pliers to go down in here. And even with the right tool, it's still very, very difficult. You can't see what you're doing down in there. It's very dark, and it's hard to get the tool in there. If that doesn't work, then plan B is there is a very large internal snap ring in the vibration mount in this fan housing, and I can remove this big outer snap ring a lot easier than the small one buried deep down in there. And then I can remove the AV mount out of the housing and gain some access, more space, more working room. But I'm going to give it a shot and see if I can get the ring out of there and hope that it comes out. Let's see, the bearings are toasted. There's no shield in there. It's wanting to come. Looks like it's coming. There it is. Okay. Very difficult. Now, what I want to do is I've got to press the drum out, and the drum will come about 3/4 of an inch before it is even with the surface of the fan housing. And there are 2 dowel pins on this to align it with the crankcase, and may have to remove those. It looks like this will just barely fit in my press, and I'm going to be using push bolt and nut and washer to push on that. Press is just barely big enough. Okay, it moved. It's pretty tight. There. I can unthread this nut and gain a little bit more. Okay, that's coming easy. Okay, and our clutch drum is now out, and it is not damaged. And you can see pretty severe wear. So the inside diameter of that clutch drum has a fair amount of wear in it. I'd like to replace it, but I don't have one. So I am going to be reusing it. Now that the drum is out, the other snap ring is now exposed. I'm going to get a different pair of snap ring pliers, an internal snap ring plier that's a larger size, and I'm going to remove that snap ring. So I forgot to get that out. I'm going to have to pause and go to the toolbox. I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I've got a set of snap-on reversible. By undoing this nut, you can switch from internal to external, and so you don't have to have 2 pliers for everything. You have one pair that is convertible. And so next is very carefully remove this. Hopefully it won't go flying across the shop. Okay, I got it out. Didn't go boing and disappear. Now these 2 old burned up clutch bearings, they can be pushed out this way. And I'm going to put some penetrating oil on there, try to make it go easier. And let's see. think I am going to have to remove one of the dowel pins. I want to get this little further under the clutch. Okay, so one of the little 5mm dowel pins has been removed. This will slide under here farther. Yeah, that's going to work. And I need something to go down in here and push. And so I'm going to go find a nut and a bolt, long bolt and a long nut, or a wide nut rather. Be right back. Okay, had to get some hardware. Got a nut and a washer on there, and I can thread the nut up and down and change the length. So I've got it in there, and I'm just hoping that the bearings will come out. Okay, I think I heard one of them drop. Yep. And that's what happens when you overheat a clutch. You're going to cook those clutch bearings. And that's what's left of it. Yeah, you can see this one is totally cooked too, both of them. So we've got two brand new bearings, and these are the correct ones. Okay, they're sealed on one side and open race on the other. So my plan is to put them face to face and press them in. And but before I do that, I'm going to take this to the pressure washing cabinet, and I'm going to thoroughly clean this and get all that iron clutch dust out of there. And I'll come back when the parts are clean and ready to assemble. Okay, I'm back after the cleaning process, and you can see that I got it not 100% clean, but better than it was. That clutch iron powder is really embedded in there. And I have come up with a plan A and plan B, in order to press the new bearings in. Plan A is my preferred method, and what that involves is using either a heat gun or the MAP gas torch to heat the housing up, and it'll expand from the heat, and then the bearings will drop in. And then when it cools down, it'll shrink, and it'll be a press fit captured tolerance there. But in order to use heat, I need to preserve the anti-vibration mount. That's going to be damaged by either the heat gun or the torch. So I'm going to be I'm going to use the snap ring pliers and remove this snap ring, and then try to get the AV mount out. And then if that works, I can go with my plan A. If this anti-vibe mount does not want to come out, then I'm going to revert to plan B, which is going to be using the #1 arbor press and an assortment of drivers and receivers to push the bearings in and then push the drum in. So let's go into an explanation of bearing pressing. This is something that a lot of mechanics have a lot of trouble grasping. And so I'm going to use my best verbal gymnastics to try to articulate this so you'll understand it. Now, I've had a lot of crappy mechanics work for me. Going way back, we had The Big Asset and Secret Agent Man, and then we had Dingus and Sniffles and Gomer and Scratch and Speedy, our latest mechanic. What he would do to press bearings in is he would just beat them in with a hammer and bang it in with a hammer and be done. And maybe that's how he got his name, Speedy. But what you don't want to do is use a hammer on a bearing. You never want to pound on a ball bearing. You can use an air hammer and a manual hammer to remove old bearings, but you do not use that method for installing. And the reason why is if you are trying to push this bearing into a bearing bore, trying to go down, and you are applying force to the inner race, okay, and this is an interference fit in your housing, and this has got to be either this is heated up and the bearing drops in and the balls in the inner race just go for a pressure-free ride and they drop right in, or you have to press the bearing into the bore. And if you hammer or press on the inner race to push the entire bearing into the bore, what that's going to do is that's going to create a pressure point here, and the inner race will be pushing on the balls, and then the balls will be pushing on the outer race here and here. So 180 degrees, those are your pressure points. And what that can do is it can create dents in the outer race and flat spots on the balls. And then that will shorten the bearing life. So when you're installing ball bearings, new bearings, you do not want to apply pressure, any pressure on the inner race at all. You want to push only on the outer race. And then the inner race and the balls will go along for a ride and will be totally undamaged. I'd like to take Speedy's balls and put them in here and then let him use a hammer on his own balls. You do not bang on a ball bearing with a hammer. That's a big no-no. And this is absolutely crucial if you were replacing main bearings in a professional chainsaw. You were working in the lower end of the crankcase of a pro saw. These bearings have got to be perfect. So then when the bearing is installed and you're trying to press a shaft into the inner race, the same principle applies. You support the inner race. So you have support on the inner race, and then you are going to drive your shaft this way. And when you're supporting your inner race and you're pushing on your shaft, the outer race and the balls just go for a free ride. They don't have any pressure applied to them at all. So this is something that is crucial. Every mechanic needs to know this. This is the proper way to press in new bearings. You have to have a method that will ensure that you do it in the right order, that you can do it this way. So I'm going to, still got my snap-on snap ring pliers here, and they are set for internal rings. Let's see if I can get this ring out. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Use this to help me pry it out. If it doesn't want to come out, then I'm going to be using plan B. Okay, it's moving. And it came out. Okay, so now this is nothing but a hollow metal casting. I can heat this up as hot as I want, and I can drop the bearings in there. So I've got a welding glove here. Hang on to it. And the new bearings, I am going to install them face to face. They're sealed on one side, they're open on the other side, and I want the open side facing each other. And put a little bit of oil, help it go in there. It went in. Oop. I'm going to leave that in there until it cools down. I'm going to come out. Those bearings are in there, and we're going to get the snap ring pliers and put the retaining ring back in. Okay, and the retaining ring is back in. And I'm going to let this completely cool down. So I'm going to pause the camera, and we're going to come back. Okay, it's cooled off, And now the next step is to reinstall the clutch drum. And I found a receiver that will support the inner race, and I can use my #1 arbor press. It's just big enough that I'll be pressing the drum through 2 bearings at the same time, all the way until it bottoms on that shoulder. And this receiver is definitely deep enough, it'll go all the way, and it's also tall enough that I don't need any spacers to hold it up. So I'm going to put some oil on this, help it go. And there's a raised hub in the center of the clutch drum, so that the nose on the arbor press is not going to press on the drum. It's going to press only on that. It's not going to damage the drum. And it bottomed, and without the AV mount in there, there's a lot more working room to get the small snap ring in. Should be a lot easier going in than it was coming out. There it is. Okay. So next, I'm going to reinstall the AV mount. Little silicone spray, and this was down at 6 o'clock. And it's back together. Okay, I don't need to make the video longer than necessary. You don't need to see me reassemble on all the nuts and bolts. The machine's going to go back together, and it's going to operate perfectly fine. This method would be identical in the Shindaiwa T262, which is the twin brother to the SRM 2620. One's red and one's orange, but they're pretty much the same machine. And do want to give a heads up for Echo and Shindaiwa on this one, because some of the commercial steel trimmers, they use a plastic fan housing and a single bearing, and some of the bearings are not serviceable. Some of the models you have to buy the whole plastic housing with the bearing installed. Others, the bearing you can replace. But I don't believe that any of the FS4 mix trimmers are using 2 ball bearings stacked together in the clutch area. So some machines have strong points, and so this is a little bit higher quality than the competitive product. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And a homeowner do-it-yourselfer, probably would be better just to order this housing completely fully assembled and change it as an assembly, because you probably don't have, a heat gun or a torch or an arbor press. But a mechanic, a real shop, this is an alternative when you don't want to hold up the job waiting for parts and you've got some bearings in stock. You can repair these and get it back out in the field quicker. So subscribe to the channel and watch all my other videos. And I don't know what I'll be doing next. I got a couple requests, so I'm going to have to try to work on that and gather up some material for some special requests. Catch you on the next one.